Good morning, County Supervisors, staff, and guests. Would you please do your roll call? Okay, we have 17 present, 4 absent. And we have a majority, so we will proceed with our agenda. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A motion to approve the agenda, a motion by Supervisor Baraboo and a second by Supervisor Draheim. And would you please vote your ballot? All right, we have 17 yes, 0 nay, 4 absent, so we have a majority vote. Moving on to the approval of the minutes of February 15th. Are there any corrections or additions? If not, please vote your ballot. Supervisor Schwallenberg, would you confirm? Thank you. 17 yes, 0 nay, 4 absent, a majority vote. Are there any petitions? No petitions?
No.
Communications? None?
None.
Public participation? Has anybody signed the? None? Okay. Then moving right on to special business, we'll review and approve the county administrative performance evaluation process. And who's going to handle it? Ron, are you going to handle that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Administrative Services Committee was tasked with documenting or proceduralizing how we handle administration's, the evaluation of the county administrator. So what you have in front of you is not his performance evaluation for this year. That'll be taken up later in the meeting. This is the process that we would like to have going forward, which is basically what we followed this year. So hopefully you've had a chance to look through this document. It contains all the things that the admin committee felt were important in terms of setting goals, basing the performance on the strategic plan, taking input from key staff members and from the county board, and then submitting the results for the county board's review. And so unless there's any questions, I'll stop there.
All right. Are there any questions of any of the supervisors? All right, then we need a motion to approve. I have a motion by Supervisor Karth and a second by Supervisor Stier. And would you please vote your ballot? All right, we have 17 yes, 0 nay, 4 absent, so we have received a majority vote, so that has been approved. Moving on to resolutions.
Resolution 2021-44, resolution declaring March 2022 as Fair Housing Month, introduced by the Administrative Services Committee.
All right, I need a motion. All right, I have a motion by Supervisor Karth and a second by Supervisor Booty. And Supervisor Dietrich, would you speak to this resolution?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What we have before us today is a resolution declaring this month as a Fair Housing Month. You may think this is kind of an obvious thing that we would support, and in fact it is. The Administrative Service Committee has brought this before the full board, however, because there's a requirement that we as the county board pass this resolution to allow us to go forward and continue the programs we've been doing relating to housing, and if there are specific questions on that, I would ask Mary Corral to come up and answer those questions.
Are there any questions of the supervisors? Seeing none, please vote your ballot. We have 17 yes, 0 nay, 4 absent, so we have received a majority vote and that resolution has been adopted. Moving on to
Resolution 2021-45, resolution designating the week of April 11th through April 15th Work Zone Safety Awareness Week in Calumet County, introduced by the Highway Committee.
I have a motion by Supervisor Baraboo and a second by Supervisor Schwallenberg. And Supervisor Draheim, would you speak to this resolution?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, this is one that we do every year for awareness that our work zone safety. I think it should say all year, not just that 1 week, because the awareness in the summertime is when people really are abusing the problems that we have. And people are getting killed, and that's not good, and a lot of injuries, so I hope you support this. Thank you.
Are there any questions regarding this resolution? Seeing none, please vote your ballot. We have 17 yes, 0 nay, 4 absent. We have received a majority vote, so this resolution has been adopted.
Resolution 2021-46, resolution authorizing participation by Calumet County in the state-funded snowmobile trail program, introduced by the Parks Commission.
I have a motion by Supervisor Stier and a second by Supervisor Baraboo. And Supervisor Ron, would you speak to this as well?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me find it here again, excuse me.
Parks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wouldn't that be Mary?
Excuse me, Mary, please.
Taking away my thunder here.
She's trying to trick me.
I knew I'd screw up something.
Well, that's not that bad. This also is something that we do every year, money that we get from aids for snowmobiles for maintenance of our trails and bridges and whatever. So it's, yes, a yearly resolution.
Right. Are there any questions regarding this resolution? If not, please vote your ballot. 17 yes, 0 nay, 4 absent. It has received a majority vote and therefore is adopted.
Resolution 2021-47, resolution authorizing continuing appropriations, introduced by the Administrative Services Committee.
All right, I have a motion by Supervisor Stier and a second by Supervisor Draheim. And Supervisor Diedrich, would you speak to this resolution?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, this is something that we do each year, and what you have in front of you is a resolution allowing us to move forward appropriations from projects that were not completed in the previous budget into 2022. And following the actual resolution is a list of those items. And again, if you have questions, we'll turn this over to the Finance Director, but it's pretty straightforward, an annual event. Thank you.
All right, any questions regarding this resolution? Hearing none, please vote your ballot. We have 17 yes, 0 nay, 4 absent, so that has received a 2/3 vote and has been adopted. Moving on.
Resolution 2021-48, resolution authorizing the amendment of the 2021 budget, introduced by the Administrative Services Committee.
Do I have a motion to adopt? Motion by Supervisor Baraboo and a second by Supervisor Draheim.
Diedrich.
And so Supervisor Diedrich, would you speak to this resolution?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is not necessarily an annual event. This is a little bit different. We are amending the budget 2021 for some things that basically didn't happen. And you'll see them listed there. The Brownfield grant was budgeted but not received. Planning Department, Records Fund, Calumet County budget to remove contract which was not executed with the City of New Holstein, and Capital Project Fund. So basically, if there are questions on this, we'll turn that over to the Finance Director as well.
Any questions on any of the carryover? All right. Hearing none, please vote your ballot. Seventeen yes, 0 nay, 4 absent. It has received a 2/3 vote and therefore has been adopted. Moving on to
Resolution 2021-49, resolution authorizing project length appropriations for American Rescue Plan Act projects, introduced by the Administrative Services Committee.
Do I have a motion? A motion by Supervisor Draheim and a second by Supervisor Gleckner. And Supervisor Diedrich, would you speak to this resolution?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Madam Chair. This one's a little bit different. It ties into the federal funding we were receiving for the American Rescue Plan Act. And it talks about what we've expended, what we have left to expend, but then it also speaks about how we would like the Finance Director to budget and report on this. So, again, it's tied to the American Rescue Plan funding and explains how we are going to review this going forward so we meet the deadlines that are prescribed by the federal government. And again, if there are questions, we will tap the Finance Director.
All right. Are there any questions regarding these appropriations? Seeing none, please vote your ballot. We have 17 yes, 0 nay, 4 absent. It has received the majority vote and therefore is adopted. Moving on.
Resolution 2021-50, resolution authorizing salaries for elected officials for the years 2023 through 2026, introduced by the Administrative Services Committee.
And I have a motion by Supervisor Diedrich and a second by Supervisor Baraboo. And Supervisor Diedrich, would you address this resolution?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This resolution comes before us, I think, every 2 or 3 years and sets the salary compensation for elected officials. For this cycle, we only have to worry about the positions of clerk of circuit court and the sheriff. The other elected officials will be coming up sometime down the road. But bottom line, it's, if you look at the numbers, which I failed to do in committee, and I apologize to the committee, it's a 2% per year raise except for the first year, which is, I think, a 6% step up to recognize the inflation that we're under right now. So if you haven't run the numbers, it's basically a 6% bump the first year and then 2% the following years through 2026. And if you have questions about how these figures were obtained or how it compares to our other counties, et cetera, we have that information. It was reviewed at Admin Services, but I'm sure Michelle will be happy to review it if we need her input. Thank you.
All right, do we have any questions regarding this? Supervisor Draheim.
Just one question as to, are we setting priorities here as everybody's going to go up 6%? That's my problem with this. Everybody else has been getting 2%, and now all of a sudden this 1 year is a 6% jump. I don't think that's proper for all the rest of the employees that we have. Just my opinion.
Madam Chair, if we want Michelle to come up and speak to that, I can give you, go ahead, Michelle, come on up. But I'll give you the bottom line, Madam Chair, is that in looking at what's been going on recently with the pandemic, the supply chain issues, the pressures from the world turmoil, we're seeing inflation is going to be 7 to 10% in the short term, and it's expected to fall back to like 3% going down. So Michelle will explain this, but she took that into consideration for the first year. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As you know, we set these rates every 4 years. Our trajectory over the years has been in this first year of the 4-year wage for these positions is to really make an adjustment, because we do that 2% to be in line with what we do across the board for our other staff, at least over the past several years. This first year within these 4 years for these positions, we're really, in my mind, kind of truing up that salary. Yes, taking into account inflation as well as just other wage movement over that time span. A lot can change. So it's really giving that little bit of a bigger lift in that first year to make up for the fact that we are unable to make adjustments during that 4-year period. They're not on our step structure, so they're not getting additional lifts along the way, which factors in as well. So we take a look at comparability with other counties that are considered comparable to ours from a compensation standpoint, as well as if they were part of our ongoing salary structure, how would they fit comparably with positions within our structure? So that first year 6% lift is to ensure that we are paying them, in our minds, equitably and fairly for their roles, knowing that we don't have any other control over the remainder of the 3 years of the process, which is where we keep them in line with our 2% across the board adjustment, if that helps.
Are there any other questions? for
I'm not
Michelle?
done yet.
Supervisor Drahan?
So what we're seeing, we predict that we're going to have a 3 or 4% on everybody's wages for next year?
No.
Well, you're saying that we're going to fall behind. We're going at, what, 6?
This is, because again,
I realize that. But if you're saying that you're predicting that it'll be more in the next couple of years, then that everybody else has got to go up the same thing.
No, what we're actually doing, and I apologize if I didn't explain it clearly, we're actually truing them up to make them a competitive rate today to make up for the fact that over the past 4 years, we weren't able to make any other adjustments. We make that smaller lift up front to ensure that they're, again, comparable within the state and as best we can with our structure, and then in line with our across the board. So really that 6% this first year is bringing them up to where they need to be today, not thinking necessarily ahead to the future.
So you're saying we underpaid them before all the rest of the years?
No.
Well, then why are we going up 6%?
It's, again, you have to keep in mind, we can't control, we can't make changes within this 4-year cycle. You're right, it's challenging, so we ultimately have to do the best we can with the data available, and what we have seen really stay in line, again, with comparables, and our internal process is to make that lift in the first year. Many of the other counties across the state as well have a similar process, and then they stabilize according to across the board typical adjustments from there. So 4 years from now, there may be, again, a little larger bump the first year and then stabilize, because we can't predict what's going to be happening 2-3 years from now. So we do our best to stay in line with what we anticipate we'll be doing for staff.
I rest my case.
Can I just add to that, please?
Great.
So 4 years ago, when you reviewed the sheriff's salary and clerk of court's salary, you also we recommended approximately a 6% increase at that point because they were significantly under the market, so to speak. So when Michelle and I take a look at our comparables, we compare them to the same comparables counties that we do our staff positions, but it has not affected your overall salary increases for county staff in the past. It is making corrections to those positions. In our view, previously they were held quite a bit under, and your process previously under previous administration in HR was not to use the comparables, where Michelle and I have decided that that's the appropriate thing to do. I think that, as we described at Administrative Services Committee, these positions can be very political, so it's difficult to determine county by county how those salaries are set. We believe our process is as close to true as it can be for what the position is and paying them accordingly. But it has not followed the path of making county employees receive the same increase.
Does
But-
that satisfy your
No.
question? No.
So what competition have they got? It's only people in our county. I mean, you're saying we got to be comparable to all the other counties?
Our
No.
recommendation is that you pay the position according to those county comparables. And as you look at those county comparables, you can,
No.
I mean, it's your decision. Our recommendation is that you pay those positions to the county comparables. Now, if you were to actually see the data, Ken, there are some that are significantly higher. I think the sheriff shared one with me from a comparable county that we would say, yeah, we're not going to go to that level. That was an administrator recommended one salary, the county board decided it wasn't enough. So it's one of those things where it's kind of all over the place. It's not as simple and straightforward, but we're suggesting that they're paid at as close to comparable as you can get. And what we've been seeing from the other counties that are providing this information, because they're all looking for it at the same time, was they're recommending 6%. Those were, I think, a handful of the ones we've seen. And to be fair, our position was a bit lower for both of these compared to across the state numbers.
And this is for the next election.
Right.
Thank you. Bye.
The other piece of it, if I may add, from our employees' perspective, our employees are part of our salary structure, so they have those built-in movements among the steps. So they're getting those pay increases in addition to that 2% across the board that has been approved. The electeds don't have those steps. So just that additional piece, our employees are getting more than 2%. They're getting their built-in steps as they progress within their ranges, if that helps clarify.
Supervisor Karth?
Thank you. I want to thank you for this, and I just want to put some perspective around these salaries. I have 2 interns working for me. They're in college, they're going to school, and they're working for me. These are kids who have not graduated college yet, and coming in with no skills, and we're teaching them, and they're interning. We're paying them $45,000 a year as interns. I have an entry-level data analyst working for me, and they're starting at a wage similar to our clerk of circuit court, straight out of college, no experience. So when you look at attracting and retaining talent, you're not only competing with other counties, but you're competing with the private sector, and you can't compete. So what we're doing is we're setting a salary that is a livable salary so that we can attract and retain talent that is willing to go into a career of service, because that's why people come to the county is for service. They could do the same work in the private sector and get paid a whole lot more, and that's just the fact. So thank you for doing this work. Thank you, because we do have great talent. We have great people in this county, and it's largely because of the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Karth. There being no further questions, please vote your ballot. We have 16 yes, 1 no, 4 absent. We have received a majority vote, so that resolution has been adopted. Moving on.
Resolution 2021-51, resolution acknowledging the meritorious work of Supervisor Bill Baraboo.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Stier and a second by Supervisor Draheim. And I believe there are no questions about this. And we certainly do congratulate Bill for all your years that you have spent with the county board. Is there any other comments?
Thank you. I think
Supervisor Booty.
Thank you. And I'm going to speak on this resolution, but what I'm going to say here in my comments applies not only to this resolution, but to the next 2 resolutions coming forward. We're only voting on a resolution here saying we appreciate you, but I'm going to add my words about the abundant love, respect, and admiration I have for these supervisors, for their service to our county, its people, the employees thereof, and to the people who visit our county. I really appreciate what you've done, not only for those folks, but also for me in my time on the board. I feel very enriched to have spent some time serving with you in those capacities. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Booty. Supervisor Barabo, would you care to address the board?
Sure. I had an opportunity to meet a lot of good people. We did a lot of good things, and it's been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
And thank you. Please vote Supervisor Schwallenberg.
I think nobody could put it any better than what Matthew just said. And from my personal experience, this is the second time we're saying goodbye to Marilyn and Hope. And it has been a pleasure serving with all of you. I wish you all well, too, whatever you desire to do after.
Thank you, and thank you both for your words. And certainly, we as a board concur. So please vote your ballot, and we will take this up into all three resolutions. We'll do them together. Is that all right with you? We can't do that, all right. I was going to cross that out. All right. Confirm. We have 17 yes, 0 no, 4 absent, so we have received a majority vote, and that resolution has been adopted. And we have a similar resolution for the work of Hope Karth. And I have a motion by Supervisor Draheim and a second by Supervisor Schwallenberg. And again, we concur with Supervisor Booty's remarks. And Supervisor Karth, would you like to speak?
Not really. Thank you. Thank you all. I'll be back probably.
Good. All right, please vote your ballot. We have 16 ayes and 1 no. We have a majority vote. Thank you both for your service. And then moving on to Resolution 2153, similar resolution acknowledging the meritorious works of Marilyn Shue. I have a motion by Supervisor Stier and a second by Supervisor Diedrich. And again, we'll incorporate Supervisor Booty and Schwallenberg's remarks and Supervisor Diedrich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to hopefully not be out of bounds with this comment because it's not speaking to this particular resolution, but it's speaking to the fact that there are 3 other supervisors who are embroiled in battle for their seats, and we may not get an opportunity like this setting to recognize their contributions. So I just didn't want to overlook that because we've got 3 very talented supervisors who are running, opposed in April, and I wish them well in their election, and hopefully they'll come back. And if not, I wish them well going forward because they've been a great assist to me. And one in particular, Supervisor Draheim has left his mark not only on this board, but on the county. Some of his comments have become statutory. When Supervisor Hoffberger talks about planning and zoning, he always is very careful to say it is not spot zoning.
Thank you, Supervisor Diedrich. Supervisor Shue, would you like to address the board?
Thank you for letting me be on the board. I had a really good time many years I was on. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Diedrich, or Supervisor Shue. And as in chair, on behalf of the board, we wish you all very well, stay safe, and let us hear from you from time to time. Thank you. And we need to vote on Marilyn's resolution. Supervisor Stier, would you confirm, and Supervisor Baraboo? All right, thank you. 17 yes, 0 nay, 4 absent. majority vote, and that resolution has been adopted. All right, moving on to the ordinances 2021-10.
Ordinance to amend the Calumet County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 10, Article 3, Building and Building Regulations, Post-Construction Stormwater Management, introduced by the Land and Water Committee.
I have a motion by Supervisor Draheim and a second by Supervisor Schwallenberg. And Supervisor Hufberger, would you speak to this ordinance?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for construction sites of 1 acre or more of land disturbance. The amendment includes changes to the pollutant load reduction requirements in the Pipe Creek Frontal Lake Winnebago watershed, as well as changes to the authority over the fee schedule changes.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding this ordinance? Supervisor Hartle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This ordinance, along with the two following, I'd like to thank the Land and Water Department. They have done an excellent job apprising us continually of changes. They've been working on cleaning up this language. The documents, as you could see, are quite lengthy, and their attention to detail is very impressive, and I appreciate their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hartle. If there are no other questions, please vote your ballot. Supervisor Schwallenberg, would you confirm? There we are. 17 yes, 0 nay, 4 absent. That ordinance has received a majority vote and therefore is passed. Ordinance 2021-11.
Ordinance to amend the Calumet County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 18, Article 2, Non-Metallic Mining Ordinance, introduced by the Land and Water Conservation Committee.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Supervisor Gleckner and a second by Supervisor Karth. And Supervisor Hufsberger, would you speak to this ordinance?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The amendment includes minor text changes and clarifications to ensure the consistency with NR 135, Wisconsin Administrative Code, as well as a transfer of day-to-day administration of the program to the East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding this ordinance? Supervisor Draheim.
Why are we going to East Central instead of here?
It went to East Central because we decided they could do it much more efficiently and better than we could.
Okay.
Supervisor Draheim, Tony Reale will answer that question if you want it answered further. All right. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, it's a great question. East Central used to handle the program for us until about 2014 when there was a change where the county decided to take it. Since then, workload and priorities have really changed quite a bit. We did a new land and water resource management plan back in 2019 that started in 2020. And since we've adopted that plan, we've taken a look at things, and there's some better priorities. The type of work our technicians are doing has changed a lot since 2014. We're working on a lot of specific watershed plans, and the staff needs there fit much better into our priorities of our plan, so that's why the decision was made.
Because in 2014, the argument was we could do a better job than what East Central could do, and now we're going right back to it again. And it just seems like we're flopping. Thank you.
Supervisor Dietrich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question again for you. I know you talked about basically in your answer that the staff is focused on the watershed and this and that, and East Central can do a good job. The only question I have is, will East Central be as responsive to the clientele in Calumet County as we would be? In other words, will there be a loss of consistency there?
I don't think so. That was a question we had for them. They do have new leadership there. We did ask that there is a little more accountability. They will be giving us quarterly reports on what's going on. The one thing about this that's interesting is East Central will not have the actual regulatory authority. If there is an issue that comes to us or comes to East Central, the county still holds the ordinance, so we will be part of that process. It's more of a transfer, just the day-to-day inspections and things like that. So I think we should be in good shape with that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Supervisor Hartle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a similar question, and as someone who lives near a non-metallic mining operation, I did have concerns as well. But the number to call is still the number that comes into the county. So even though East Central might be dealing with the company itself, constituents still get to call the county and voice their concerns. So that satisfied me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Hartle. There being no further questions, please vote your ballot. We have 17 yes, 0 no, and 4 absent, so it has received a majority vote and therefore is adopted. Ordinance 2021-12.
Ordinance to amend the Calumet County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 18, Article 4, Manure Storage and Runoff Management, introduced by the Land and Water Conservation Committee.
I have a motion. I have a motion by Supervisor Baraboo, a second by somebody, there we go. Supervisor Draheim and Supervisor Hufsberger, would you speak to this ordinance?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The amendment includes minor text changes and clarifications in regard to definitions, practice standard names, as well as timeliness and authority over fee schedule changes.
So it's mostly changes in terminology. All right. But, are there any questions regarding this ordinance? Supervisor Diedrich.
I hate to be picky, but...
Is your mic on?
Sorry about that. I hate to be picky, and maybe I'm just reading it wrong, but on page 92 of 104 on what was sent us, agenda item, anyway, paragraph B, it's got changes, a closure plan. There's a CEL. Is that a misspell? Instead of closure CLOSURE, it says CELOSURE.
Actually, that C is struck out. It does look like it's still an E, but it's struck.
So does the E stay?
Closure, yep.
All right, I'll trust you, thanks.
It's struck.
Oh, sorry, that's actually a small C that's struck out, not an E. That's what it looks like in
Struck
here.
out.
Okay, but on the thing I'm looking at, it's clearly CELOSURE.
It's a C, but it's struck out, so it looks like an E.
Yep.
A struck out C becomes an E. I learned something today, thank you.
Supervisor Hufsberger.
I just want to thank Supervisor Diedrich that somebody is reading the stuff that close. Thank you very much.
Are there any further questions regarding this ordinance? If not, please vote your ballot. There's a lot to read. We have 17 yes, 0 nay. And 4 absent. We have received a majority vote, so that ordinance has been adopted. Moving on to supervisor reports. Are any supervisors have anything to report from any previous meetings you've been at? Supervisor Schwallenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First about parks, the company that was logging our trees pulled their equipment out. They're not done, but the ground has become too soft for them to finish. They've done some, as Adam said, some clear cut. Our northern property, again, it didn't freeze enough for them to get in there and get the lumber or the emerald ash out of there. We started drilling the well for the new RO system on the southern end up by the maintenance. Work's being done in our office, and Adam just informed me that we got a grant of $180,000 for the Shannon property, which is the property that we purchased to the south 2 years ago. We just got a stewardship grant for that. Maple Syrup Sunday is this Sunday. You may notice that, or if you haven't noticed, that tickets have to be bought online. Adam said this year they will take walk-ins yet if you come. Otherwise, we're going to go to an all-online system, which I personally think can be a problem for some people, but that will be discussed later. Health and Human Services, we had a presentation from our, excuse me, I've got to look at this. I'll start, first of all, the COVID cases in the county have decreased dramatically. Our health officer said that we're averaging maybe 2 cases a day now at the most. So that's very good news. We had a presentation from our behavioral health unit. They told us they only stopped seeing people face-to-face for a very short time with COVID because mental health patients and people who don't have mental health also do not do very well with Zoom. So we applaud them for taking care of these clients. No one is turned away from this county if they need help. If we can't service them, we find them a place that does. And we do not, and I want to stress, do not have a waiting list in this county. The only waiting list we ever did have was because the state forced us a couple years ago into a waiting list, but that, I believe, is gone now. So they also, our psychiatric nurse told us she works with drug companies and that some of the psychiatric injectables cost over $55,000 a year for these clients. So when you see things about we need to work on lowering our drug costs, I apologize to the diabetics. I have a family member who has one. We hear so much about insulin, but there are other drugs too that are also extremely expensive. Just cancer drugs are another thing that too. COVID itself, with our public health system, we dealt with the people that were physically ill. We forget that people also have had mental health issues with this too. So we're working on that. All of our staff, all the staff in the county, no matter where they work, whether it's maintenance or administration, have all stepped forward and accepted this challenge that we've had the last couple of years. And I applaud the whole staff of this county all the way around for doing such a good job the last 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Schwallenberg. There being no other people to speak, then we'll move on to the administrator's report. Are there any questions regarding his report? Okay. Then our next regular meeting will be April 19th. That will be our organizational meeting. It'll start at 8:30. Some of you will be back with us and some of you won't. And for those 3 that are retiring, again, thank you for your service. It's been really a pleasure working with you. And I will adjourn this meeting with no further business. Oh, excuse me, we have to go into closed session. And the closed session is to discuss the administrator's performance evaluation. So I will do a motion by Supervisor Diedrich and a second by Supervisor Karth to go